Alright, Landers, so in less than 12 hours time, we are going to be getting 1000 Year Blood War Round 5 Resurrections. They are setting up to be one of the better set of resurrections in the entire game. I'm very excited for it, hopefully that's R2. But since they aren't here just yet, let's build up some anticipation, talk about the characters once more by turning back the pendulum and having a look at these characters when they first released all those years ago back in 2019.
ようこそ私のソウルソサエティへ波動の99五竜点滅
私の春光は風無給春光
挽回残夏の太刀
The day was July 20, 2019. The hype for the 4th anniversary was just beginning. The bunker live stream was airing, and players were patiently waiting for a new announcement of 1000 Year Blood War. Because at this time, 1000 Year Blood War for the most part was done. With the initial announcement, only 4 rounds were ever confirmed. But considering the success of those 4 banners, players knew it was only a matter of time before 1000 Year Blood War Round 5 got announced. And it was at this point we were coming up to a year without a new 1000 Year Blood War banner. While the future of 1000 Year Blood War Embracers was a tad bit unclear, our prayers were answered with this initial announcement. 1000 Year Blood War was back, and in this case, back with an absolute bang.
So we're going to show you a little bit, sneak peek right now of Yamamoto being made right now.
In this case, Caleb have just confirmed a new 1000 Year Blood War version of Yamamoto, and this was exciting for many reasons. Not only was it the return of 1000 Year Blood War, it also brought us a character whose future was kind of unknown. Unfortunately, at this point in time, Yamamoto's voice actor had passed away years prior, and his addition into the game was kind of unknown. Were they going to hire a new voice actor, or would they just outright skip him? But this announcement on the 4th anniversary Bankai live stream confirmed he was coming to the game with also a new voice actor. In this case, Bin Takaoka, taking over the mantle from Masaki Sukada. And with this, the player base went crazy. However, it was unknown how long it would take for this character to come into the game, since in this case they were only showing a sketch. The year prior, on the 3rd anniversary Bankai live stream, they revealed to us that Yuha Buck will be coming to the game. However, in his case, they had the artwork already done. The character was done and ready to release the following week. With Yamamoto, they only showed the sketch, and that meant a lot of players, myself included, thought the character wouldn't be out for at least another few months. However, right after the Bankai live stream ended, the trailer got leaked. This definitely wasn't part of Keida's plan, but not only did it show that Yamamoto was ready, it also showed the entire banner. The trailer starting off with Aizen's Welcome to Society quote got everyone excited back in 2019, even those that hadn't even read the manga or knew the context of said quote. But seeing Yamamoto's Bankai animated, seeing Aizen in the same banner, and also a surprising Soifon got every part of the community excited. So much so that we were pretty much ready to skip out on part 1, and that we did. Because a week later, July 31st, 2019, they officially released, so let's have a look at them. So first up, we have Bankai Yamamoto. In this case, he was one of the best characters in the game at the time of his release, and it was for a very simple reason. Back then, in 2019, characters were very simple in nature. If you have a good enough strong attack kit, you're already solidified as one of the best characters in the entire game. And we can essentially see that here with this particular character. Even to this day, this strong attack kit does still hold up very well, especially if the character is given Havoc. In this case, he has a distant AoE SA2, a full screen SA3, and a beam forward SA1. Other than his strong attacks, his skills mainly include Frenzy +1, 2 immunities to freeze and also burn, because of course that makes sense, and that's really about it. But back then, in 2019, that was all we needed for a good character, because as you can see here, the range this character had on the strong attacks was almost unseen of on many different characters. And given the fact he had Holo Killer, a good and relevant killer at the time, it was easy to understand why there was a lot of hype for this particular character. But in going into the final stage, let's use our Soul Bomb. A really cool looking Soul Bomb, right? But keep in mind here, someone does have a unique effect. I think he was like the 2nd or 3rd character to get this. Upon using the Soul Bomb, it then does get a vortex that goes around him. We also leave a trail of burn behind us. It's a really cool effect. Unfortunately, it doesn't last long enough to really have much of an impact. A lot of times you do Soul Bomb, you already nuked the entire stage to begin with, so that's probably why we never saw it return, but it was cool to see that type of attack and effect also return. And what I also kind of like about the fact that the skeleton attack more so had a vortex is that we did see it return. You know, last year, for example, on Power Yamamoto, again, the same attack with the skeletons also became once more another vortex. So at least to me, that was kind of cool seeing a, you know, attack return for the most part, but keep the fact that it was also a vortex. This time a way better one on an SA2. But I would say the visuals for this character still hold up really well here. Really cool attacks, all things considered. And even the nat string looks really cool too. Like, this is probably one of my favorite nat strings in the entire game. It is absolutely beautiful. Once more though, going back into the final room, can we just nuke with one strong attack? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And in that case, our play time is a 1 minute and 34 seconds. Actually pretty good. We weren't even going for a very fast play time there, but he's still able to clear his content relatively fast. At least for a 2019 character. And I guess it's also worth mentioning too, upon release, the character itself was called 1000 Year Blood War East/South version. And then we can see in this particular character's gameplay that he wasn't using all directions of his Bankai. And it was for that reason that many of us already assumed that we were eventually going to get a second Yamamoto, this time being the Northwest version. And of course, we did eventually get that later that year. So it was kind of cool to see upon release that we were already expecting another Yamamoto, and coincidentally, it was also another Yamamoto that was also leaked. And of course, released in the same banner, we had 1000 Year Blood War Aizen, who unfortunately wasn't met with the same set of praise that 1000 Year Blood War Yamamoto had. Again, as already mentioned, back in 2019, the talk of the town was all about melee collision. If you had range collision attacks, because characters' skills weren't well developed, a character only having Frenzy +1 for example, it meant that you were a tad bit lackluster. And in Aizen's case, he had 2 melee collision attacks. So at least for the meta heads out there, even for the hardcore Aizen fans, there was a tad bit disappointment with the release of this character. Despite him looking really cool, this SA1 still looks really cool, but most importantly, the SA2. His SA2 is actually a vortex, but we can actually see him walking inside of it, and then it cracks once more with the glass shatter. That was also really cool. One of the best looking SA2 vortexes in the game, in my opinion. However, to go alongside that, he did have a very unique mechanic. In this case, he has a charge strong attack free, and still the only character in the game to have a second charge stage. As you can see here, he's currently saying the enchantment for the Kurohitsugi.
反発せよ地に満ち己の無力を知れ波動の90
There we go, it's now ready, and then we let it off. It's a full screen attack, it's an absolute nuke. It's really cool fan service, and I love it when they do stuff in that game. Was the attack practical? Not really. You do have to charge this strong attack free for around 20 plus seconds, and at that point, you're just better off just using the first charge attack. And it's for that reason we probably never saw that attack return. It's just not that good, but it is really cool. So just because it's cool, I'm going to do it again just to go against one enemy. But the effects too look really cool too. Look at that, beautiful SA3. And I positioned it terribly. But he did have some decent gameplay. The Vortex SA2 into the SA1 made for a good combo. You can push the enemies back, go up here, and then let off the first charge. And the first charge was perfectly fine. Like, charge strong attacks at this time were still good. They are still good, actually. There was just a lot of memes when it came to that SA3 because you had to charge it for 20 seconds.
波動の99五竜点滅
But still has to be one of the best sword bombs in the entire game. Visually, it's great, it's aged well. I'd say the whole character's aged well in terms of visuals. In terms of playability, he's just a bit average for the most part. So yeah, if you were playing the game when this character officially released, you would have seen the disappointment that was there in the community just because of how they treated him. And he wasn't even a bad character per se, it's just that people expected more from an Aizen like this, especially a 1000 Year Blood War version, especially considering the fact that they had to wait an extra year from round 4 to round 5. A lot of Aizen fans definitely weren't happy when this character was officially revealed in terms of gameplay. And that's why I'm kind of excited to see his upcoming Resurrection. Obviously, it is coming out tomorrow. We know the skills he's about to pick up, and that does really help him out quite a lot. His SA3, I believe, is going to be, at least when fully charged, it's going to be one of the few charged strong attacks to actually have a full screen radius, which I think is really good. Or above full screen. I know I have to wait 20 seconds for this, but it does feel really powerful when you let it off. Let's do it again. Look at that. Unfortunately, I keep missing that one last enemy. I need to position myself better. With that said, though, I'm going to use my soul bomb here just to go through this particular stage. And then we get into the final boss where we get to use our soul bomb again. Getting hit a lot here. But there we go, nice and easy, right? This definitely is on the slow run, definitely not comparable to someone like Yamamoto, for example. And I guess it didn't help that Aizen also had 2 wasted skills, last ditch survival, but I guess they weren't even too far off, to be fair. But then again, we did use a sword to clear an entire stage. We didn't do that with Yamamoto. But as I was saying, he was also given start barrier plus 10 too. That's not really that good. Didn't really help him out in the content he wanted to be used in, so he definitely could have been a tad bit better. But ultimately, the main complaints and disappointment from this character came from the fact that his strong attacks just weren't really that good. Range collision attacks back in 2019 really weren't that sought after. And it also doesn't help that a month later they released a premium mid-month character, a filler character mind you, that was significantly better than Aizen. BBS in 2019 was a very weird time. This Koko was absolutely ridiculous, and I'm also looking forward to his resurrection. And last but not least, we have Soifon, who's aged really well in my opinion. Still a character that I use to this day. Now for starters, visually this character looks great. Her nurturing, absolutely beautiful. Her whole kit is great. Her SA1 is going to be a lunge forwards, at the time really good for a Nad character. Her SA2 is going to be a vortex, but also a boost move. And it's also worth mentioning it does actually transform her, so she is a transforming character. It's hard to see, but you can see here the wind behind us is more apparent. And that allows us to do more damage on our normal attack string, which I think is really cool. So you can see that now it's actually we're going back to normal. So now our normal attacks are actually doing less damage. This was first introduced for the 3rd anniversary a year prior, with someone like 1000 Year Blood War round 4 Ichigo. For a Nat character though, she was really good. I loved SA3, her taking out the Bankai, and still to this day, she probably has one of the better Natrons in the game, both appearance-wise and also practical use. Obviously, she does struggle a tad bit in content like this because she does not have any stat elements, and she also has to break guard, but back in 2019, no one could break guards. But the kit actually did have a SA1 lunge that hits a few times, and a obviously SA2 vortex. Using her in normal content wasn't a bad idea. Now having said that, while she was a great character, there was still some disappointment, more so given the fact that she wasn't given long stride. That was kind of Soifon and Yoruichi's whole gimmick back then, and that disappointment was also seen for 1000 Year Blood War Yoruichi. The previous Soifon being the queen of Guild Quest with her long stride and flash steps. There was a big hope that she would also have long stride. Unfortunately, we didn't see that, because it was around this time characters were very rarely ever given long strides. Now, lucky for us, years later, we can give her long stride with bonus abilities, so we are able to now experience the Soifon that we would have thought we would experience back in 2019. But you can see here, we are going through this quest absolutely terribly slow. She is a Nad character after all, with no killer, no status augments, no guard break, and her upcoming resurrection really doesn't fix that, but it does make her really good in the place where she has been used in, that being of course guild quests. So I'm actually really liking her upcoming resurrection. Let's use the Sobom though. Once more, really cool Sobom that we're probably actually going to see animated maybe next week. So yeah, 2 minute 55 second clear time. You're not really going to take into IT anytime soon, even when she does get resurrected. But that's fine. She has a niche, and she's going to be really good in that niche. So with that said, lads, that was the video for today, having a look back on 1000 Year Blood War Round 5 just before they do resurrect. Tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm definitely going to go ahead and resurrect them. Might even max transcend characters like Yamamoto and also Aizen, because they're also going to become really good links. All 3 upcoming resurrections really do improve the characters and make them a bit more usable than before. They all become really good links, and they also of course offer 75 additional orbs per character once you do max their level once more. I think the timing of this banner was great. Back in 2019 when all 3 characters released, they were all significantly hype. While there were a few disappointments, mainly with Aizen for example not being as good as he could have been, it was still an amazing banner and still a lot of players summoned for the characters because they were really fun to play around with, even to this day. If you have any memories back on these characters when they first initially released, let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, take care and peace.